guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude back with the Split Decision Podcast, episode number 72, here with my always brilliant co-host, the Fight Geek. Fight Geek, how you doing today, man?
Doing good, man. Got a lot to talk about in the world of MMA. Happy to be back with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's what's on tap today, folks. We've got a lot to cover, as Fight Geek said. First, we're jumping into our UFC 251 recap and review. After that, we're moving on to UFC Fight Island 1 preview and picks. That's happening tomorrow night, Wednesday. When you'll be listening to this, it will likely be Wednesday or Thursday. We're going to jump through those after that. UFC Fight Island 2 preview and picks. That is this Saturday. A whole lot of UFC coming at us. And let me just start off the episode with this opening question for you, Fight Geek. So the other day, Daniel Cormier on his podcast extensively spoke about the main event for UFC 251, Usman versus Masvidal. And he said that he felt bad for Usman because he felt that Usman failed to capitalize on defeating Masvidal by failing to make the fight more exciting, to go for a finish, that he was unable to get a lot of the star power from a win against such a popular fighter as Masvidal. As we both know, UFC 251 did 1.3 million pay-per-view buys, the most since Conor versus Khabib. I'm just curious what your overall thoughts were on the takeaways from the result of Usman Masvidal, and do you agree with DC that Usman failed to improve his stock with the win, and that Masvidal's stock has in fact never been higher?
Well, that's a mouthful of a question right there to start out with,
yeah.
Phil. But I think I can see both sides of the coin there. Obviously, Usman is taking a little bit of blowback from his performance, which is a little unwarranted considering the circumstances they were both put in and the fact that he did win pretty much 5-0, blanked Masvidal. So I get
4-1. I had a 4-1. Is that unfair?
4-1 is fine. I had it 5-0. I know the first round, Masvidal had some spurts, and the fact that he was defending the takedown and stuff like that could easily lead you to lean that way, but I still thought that Usman controlled it.
Okay.
But I think it's clear, the casual ESPN audience is not going to gravitate towards clinch fighting and top control and things like that. That's just not the way they're wired. They want to see exciting knockouts. They want to see more of a blood sport. So yeah, I agree with DC in that aspect. I don't necessarily agree that Masvidal's stock has never been higher. Obviously the 1.3
you
million.
don't. Okay.
The 1.3 million pay-per-view buys are a little misleading if you're projecting forward, in my opinion, because A, there was nothing else on in the world of sports, so this was all people had, which elevated it. B,
could say that about 249 and 250. They didn't get close to those numbers.
I will give you credit. Well, obviously, it wasn't marketed like Fight Island. It didn't have as many commercials. It didn't have 3 title fights. So there's a lot more to it. Obviously, Masvidal really put it over the top. But I think the intrigue in a lot of those buys were that, Masvidal's the bad mother effer and that he was going to win. And I think that he had, although from a technical aspect, considering the situations, he had a good fight, I don't think he was impressive to the layman's eye whatsoever. So I don't think his stock moving forward is higher than it was, let's say, the Friday before the fight. So it would be really interesting to me to see what his next pay-per-view does, because I do feel like a tiny bit of that bad mother effer shine gets washed away when you get beat 5-0 and really don't put up much of a serious threat. You get what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I will disagree about the 5-0 blank. I definitely gave the first to Masvidal. I did think he won that. It was a close round, but I thought that Masvidal won it solidly.
Don't try and do that. Was a one-sided domination. You can't try and paint
Of course it was. Of course it was.
Yeah,
no, I'm not saying that. But
so saying Masvidal won a round is as pathetic as saying that Conor won a round against Khabib. Who cares?
People say it all the time. People trumpet that fact all day, every day.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is those are irrelevant facts when you're in a completely
But Masvidal also took it on 6 days' notice. I mean, do you give him any credit for that?
No, of course I give him credit for that. I think it was clear that his gas tank wasn't up to snuff. He wasn't in peak physical condition. But what he did show you is that obviously his defensive wrestling is very good. And he just like his name, he's game. He got up. He had different flurries and different attempts to really kind of hurt Camaro. He landed in some of those flurries. He affected Camaro a couple times. He just wasn't at his peak to kind of follow up with those situations, in my opinion. But to say his stock is at an all-time high, I'm not sure it's higher today than it was the Friday before the fight, if I'm being honest.
Okay, I think that's fair. Let me ask you this sort of follow-up related question. I asked this to my Twitter followers the other day, and there were some interesting answers, but I'm curious to hear your take. Will Jorge Masvidal's next fight, key phrase is next fight, be a pay-per-view headliner?
I mean, I could see that for sure. I could see something.
I would be shocked if it's not. I would be beyond shocked, Fight Geek.
I mean, he already has the built-in BMF title attached to his name, which I think everybody saw why that wasn't up for grabs this weekend.
Yeah, and by the way, I was getting yelled at all week by people saying, "You're such a casual. Dana said it's a one and done." Okay, guys. Okay. Oh, Dana said it, so it's definitely true. Yeah. Do you see now why the BMF was not on the line? Come on.
If they book Conor versus Masvidal, I will guarantee you that belt will be on the line.
Yeah, Conor won't take that fight. But if he does, then I will come on the show and apologize to Conor.
There's only maybe 2 or 3 fights that Masvidal can have that are main events. So again, this is a little bit trickier question than yes or no. Obviously, Nate Diaz, Conor McGregor, those are headliners. You know, there are other fights. If it's Leon versus Masvidal, I could see that as a co-main. But no, what do you think?
I was thinking about this. I agree with you that McGregor and Diaz 2 are the 2 most obvious ones, and it's very hard for me to see. I think they're going to go to McGregor first. I don't think McGregor will take that fight. Again, guys, I'm opinionated, but I'm always here next week, so I'm here to eat my words when I'm wrong.
Colby versus Masvidal is certainly a headliner.
I'm hearing Colby Woodley is all but done for
that's
August.
what I was going to follow up with, is I just don't think that fight's going to be on the table. So you're really looking at Conor, Nate, or Leon, right?
And I think that despite Leon being, having absolutely zero draw, despite the fact that his personality makes Camaro Usman seem like the most charismatic fighter of all time, I still think Masvidal is a big enough star where you could headline a pay-per-view with Masvidal Edwards. Obviously, Edwards being on the other end of it would drag down the buys significantly. But
what do you think a Masvidal Leon Edwards fight does coming off of that Masvidal performance? Best case scenario, 700,000, 600,000?
Oh yeah, best. Yeah, I mean against Leon Edwards. I mean, no one knows who Leon Edwards is except
So what do you think Masvidal is worth in today's climate? 200,000, 300,000 buys or more?
No, way more. Are you kidding? Way more. He just did 1-3.
Yeah, he also had Max Holloway. He had he had Rose. He also
I've heard
had
this
Paige
whole thing.
Zandt.
UFC 245 had 3 title fights, and guess who else was on it? Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski. It did 300,000 buys. 300.
I'm not taking anything away from Masvidal's star power, but there was also a lot of lots of other stars on this card. I'm not saying Paige Van Zandt, Jose Aldo attract a huge audience. Obviously, they're not pay-per-view stars, but they certainly have followings that tune in. And when you put a bunch of fighters with their own followings together, you can get a big card like that. But not taking anything away from Masvidal, I understand that his star power is what pushed this weekend. Just will be very interesting to see where he goes from here, because Conor and Nate are no-brainer, $1 million fights, or $1 million
plus
fights.
Oh, I think McGregor-Masvidal, by the way, I think McGregor-Masvidal smashes the MMA pay-per-view record and beats the McGregor-Khabib numbers.
I mean, it would be close, but I don't see that, because what you don't have there is the allure of the elite fighters, where, Khabib versus Conor, that was to see who arguably is the greatest 155er of all time. So
we'll see. I mean, I can't prove it. It's all just opinion right now. But I definitely stand by my opinion that it would be the biggest pay-per-view buy in MMA event of all time. But I could be wrong.
Sure.
So, yeah.
As long as we don't have to see something like Masvidal versus Anthony Pettis or something stupid like that.
Oh, my God. Yeah, exactly. I agree. And then really quickly, and we're going to obviously get back to this fight, but we have to do a quick recap. Last thing I wanted to end on is Camaro Usman's getting a lot of hate, and I just wanted to come to his defense really quick. I won't lie. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say that the performance was exciting for me, but I'm also a diehard MMA fan who appreciates just how great and how dominant of a wrestler Usman is.
100%. Yeah, you don't have to like the style.
You don't have to like it, but you have to respect it.
The technique and the application of his abilities.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
He just dismantled the 2019 Fighter of the Year without a scratch on his face at the end.
And by the way, let me just say this, and this is really going to be a little bit controversial, but someone's got to say it, so it may as well be me. As you know, Fight Geek, I consider George St. Pierre to be the greatest fighter of all time. After his first loss to Matt Serra, just about, there were a few small exceptions, just about every single one of his fights after that, he fought very safe and very boring.
Well, that's true, but I don't like that comparison because George St. Pierre was like a sublime striker when he was younger. He had and all throughout his career, he possessed arguably the best jab in MMA. So I get Camaro Usman is winning in, not necessarily the most exciting ways, but he's not quite GSP. As far as stylistically, GSP still offered a lot that Usman doesn't. He offered kicks. I mean, GSP was still throwing, spinning back kicks. He was very good with the jab. I don't see that kind of fluidity out of Usman. So the people who say GSP was super boring, I don't get that either. So.
I think he's the greatest of all time, and I thought his fights were boring. But that does, again, I'm not taking away how talented he was.
Off the top of your head, though, I think that's a misconception. Name one that was super boring off the top of your head.
Hendricks in the sense that he lost the fight, probably, right?
Well, that wasn't a boring fight at all. That fight was super exciting.
You really want me to go through GSP's title defenses and just name all the ones that were boring? I can definitely do that.
Well, if you do, I'll just explain to you why they weren't boring. So we can just keep it.
Okay. So again, to be clear, I'm saying he's the greatest fighter of all time.
And I'm saying you don't have to like Camaro Usman's style. There's no law that says anybody has to love his style, but that doesn't make it any less dominant or effective.
No, of course. I brought this all up. I'm
speaking rhetorically, Phil, not specifically to you.
Okay. Cool. Okay. All right. So moving on, we have so much to cover, so we're gonna mostly just recap the main card, but had to discuss the first fight of the card, which was ironically fantastic, one of the best fights. It was Davey Grant versus Martin Day. And Martin Day got a very big knockdown. He knocked Grant down very seriously early in the fight. Looked like he was going to finish Grant. Grant came back and got the incredible, TKO via left hook at 2 minutes and 38 seconds of the third round, and his grit blew me away, frankly.
Yeah, no, it was a great fight. Both guys were just landing back and forth really heavy stuff, so I kind of felt the knockout coming. But Davey Grant was eating big shots and then obviously landed that picture-perfect left hook that was just super heavy. Fun fight to kick off the card with. I think I picked it right and you picked it wrong.
Oh, thanks. Wow, if only I did that every time. Okay, all right, moving on to the last fight of the prelims, Volkan No Time Ozdemir versus Yuri Prochazka.
Yeah, Yuri I
think it's Prochazka.
I think it is Prochazka.
Okay.
What? Weird. He came out, he was very, very strange.
He literally stood in front of Volkan in round 1, mind you, and had his chin out and just dared Volkan to hit him as hard as he could.
Yeah, he's a very athletic guy. He was very quick. Obviously, he was very flowy as well. I'm not sure how far he'll get with that kind of wild style, but he's certainly an interesting player at 205.
Yeah, definitely. Him
versus Johnny Walker's like a no-brainer for just insanity, right?
That's Walker's funeral, in my opinion. But sure, we can end Walker here. We can end Walker here and now. Am I wrong? Am I wrong with that assessment?
I would say Walker's faced the better competition, so we would have to see. You were the biggest Johnny Walker fan. He loses once or twice. Now he's the worst fighter on the roster.
You always miss. I like Johnny Walker. You always confuse whether or not I think someone's going to win with whether or not I like them, which happens to me all the time. I don't choose with my heart.
Let's keep it
moving on. Amanda Ribas defeats Paige Van Zandt via armbar submission, 2 minutes and 21 seconds into round number 1. I don't have too much to say about this other than,
best case scenario for Amanda Ribas and worst case scenario for Paige Van Zandt. I think you really saw that Paige has been away from the game for a long time. She's no longer with Team Alpha Male. All the things that made Paige Van Zandt promising in the beginning seem to have worn off at this point. And she just looked way out of her depth versus a real young rising prospect and a Ribas. So great performance there. I guess the question is, what's next for Paige, right?
Yeah, and let me ask you this because I've been thinking about it really quickly. I know everyone is saying Paige is headed straight to Bellator with her husband. I tend to agree, but here's my question. I think that Paige has been, she hasn't held her cards close enough to the vest. She's, kind of already hinted too strongly that she wants to go to Bellator. The problem when you do that is you lose a ton of leverage. And now Bellator knows how badly she wants to come there. So if I'm Bellator, I am lowballing her. I'm offering some very disrespectful money.
But as a business, the fact that they've just missed half their year and the fact that Bellator is floundering, they would have to pay for intriguing talent just to stay relevant. So
yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Do you think so? All I was going with that is, do you think there's any chance one championship comes out of nowhere and just offers double the money Bellator does and steals her?
No, because I think they said that Paige is making 46 and 46, so she's making $92,000 a fight if she wins.
Yeah,
I could see Bellator offering her $120,000 straight cash per fight, and then her signing there to do that.
Okay, yeah, hard to disagree. Okay, let's move on. Rose Namajunas versus Jessica Andraj 2, a split decision. Interesting judge decision that it was split. I thought Rose clearly won the first two, and Andraj clearly won the third. What did you make of Rose's performance?
I thought it was good. I don't think it was great. I've heard quite a bit, but I thought she looked very, very good early, and I think she got a little, I don't know if she got tired or what happened, or if maybe just the brute strength and forward pressure of Andraj finally wore on her, because Andraj started closing the distance, and even though I'm technically that great, she's still she's arguably the most powerful female on the roster, pound per pound. I mean, she's very powerful when she lands shots. So
yeah,
I thought she was able to get in on Rose. I thought Rose looked vulnerable in certain spaces, especially later on in the fight, and then you could tell by how she was her face got pretty busted up. It looked like her nose got broken the second round. So while I did think it was a good fight for Rose, obviously off a layoff versus someone who stuck the last time, I thought there was a little room for improvement there, but it was a fun fight for sure. Clearly the fight of the night.
Oh, yeah. You say fight of the night. Okay.
Yeah, it was fight of the night.
Okay. I disagree with that.
Well, it actually was the fight of the night.
No, I know.
Yeah.
You don't think that it should have been Holloway Volkanovski too?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so, no.
Okay, well, we'll get to that. Okay, so really quick, before we move on, it's looking very it's looking very likely, rather, that Rose versus Weili Zhang is next.
Yes, let's do it.
What do you make of that? Who you got? As a huge diehard Rose fan, I'm worried about it.
Considering that she was fading versus Andraj in this last fight, and the fact that we just saw Weili with the pedal to the metal for 5 rounds versus Joanna, I would definitely favor Weili today. But that doesn't mean that if the best version of Rose shows up, she can't win. I just would favor Zhang right now.
Yeah, I agree with I agree. Okay, so moving on, Peter Yan defeats Jose Aldo via TKO ground and pound, 3 minutes and 24 seconds into round number 5. In what I thought was another candidate for fight of the night, because I thought this fight was excellent. It was clear that Aldo started fading.
Except for the 2-minute, closing sequence.
Right, the murder of Aldo.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that later. But, yeah, I thought Jose came out, looked strong, looked good. I actually think I scored round 1 for him, probably, potentially.
I did. I scored the first for Aldo for sure.
Yeah. But, Jan, and I think I might have even tweeted it, is just like a Terminator. He just kept coming. He just kept coming, and eventually, we saw Aldo get a little tired. He started to wilt, and then once he got on top of him, he never gave him a chance to recover. Jan, super impressive performance. I didn't believe it until I saw it, but now I definitely believe it. That was very impressive. And Peter Yan seems to do the same thing to every single one of his opponents. He kind of starts a little slow, and he picks it up, and he just marches you down and stops you. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I'm so excited for what needs to hopefully be the next title fight, which is Jan versus Aljamain Sterling, because Sterling obviously will have zero intention of standing and striking with Jan. He's just going to go for that submission, and it'll be very interesting to see how Jan handles an opponent like that.
Yeah, it'll be a different wrinkle to deal with for sure, because you don't want to be in the 3rd and 4th round striking with Peter Yan for sure.
Right. I mean, with what Sterling's been doing lately, I don't want to be in a first round with his submission game, frankly.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Hopefully
that's what's next.
Yep, absolutely. Moving on to the co-main event. Oh boy, did this get some controversy. Alexander Volkanovski defeats Max Holloway via extremely controversial split decision. Not sure if you heard about this, Fight Geek, but FanDuel, the popular betting website, actually received so many complaints that they formally they reimbursed everyone who bet money on Holloway, and they actually had a full announcement about it, saying that they understand that many people felt that Holloway won, and that they also felt that, and that it only felt right to reimburse the fans who lost money. What do you make of this, and how did you score the fight?
Are you FanDuel's PR agent or something?
I mean, they should start paying me, right? Give me my money.
Exactly. I could care less about the FanDuel thing. Really doesn't.
I mean, I think it's interesting that a betting website would do such a thing. I've never heard. I mean, that's pretty uncalled for.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the fight though, which is what we're talking about, right?
Okay. Yeah. So how'd you score the fight? It sounds like you definitely scored it for Volkanovski.
No, I definitely scored for Max, 48-47, and
as did I think 98% of people that watch MMA.
What was very confusing to me is after the fact is looking at the scorecards is that the 5th round was the deciding round, because I could have swore the 3rd round was the deciding round,
and the third was the deciding round. Yeah. They're crazy.
There's no way Max won the 5th round. I don't know how anyone could give Max the 5th round. Are you with me there?
I am, although it was. I mean, I've rewatched the fight twice now. It was close.
Very close rounds.
Well, not the 4th. Volk dominated the 4th.
Yeah, that's true. And Max dominated the 1st.
He dominated the 1st and the 2nd. He was literally toying with Volk, and he knocked him down twice. And the knockdowns they weren't counted. That's a big thing with the UFC that isn't talked about, is they love to not count legitimate knockdowns. That's a new thing with them, which is very it's very ugly stuff. Don't like to see that. They said they don't
want to count flash knockdowns, but they want to count flash takedowns, which doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. So I think it's time to start really looking at that. But I scored it again. I scored it 48-47. Max. Thought it was pretty clear that Max won. But I'd be lying if I didn't say I feel bad for Volkanovski. I don't know if you've taken a look at his social media, but it's about 95% pure hatred.
People are just idiots. I mean.
He didn't score the fight.
My thing is in today's climate and the way the world is, who has the time or energy to go bother a professional athlete and spew venom and hate towards him based on the results that he couldn't control? It's like those people need to literally get a life.
Yeah, no,
But
I mean, I totally agree.
sorry, Phil, if that was you.
Well, I mean, you mentioned it, not me. Dan Hooker came after me hard when I said that. I was surprised to see Hooker acknowledging me and getting so upset with me, but I didn't even know he knew who I was. But he was very
I'm
upset.
never surprised when someone's getting upset with
Hooker
you.
was very upset with me. He was very upset with me, Fight Geek. but
So let's get to the important questions. What's next for Max Holloway?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And actually, on that note, let me just really quickly ask a listener question, just because it's literally that. So this is from at ZanBando99, and he says, "What's next for Volk and Holloway? Does Volk Holloway 3 happen next, or does Volk take another fight? And then if so, should Max go up to 155 or stay at featherweight?"
Yeah, well, first off, I don't think you can do Max Volk 3. I just don't think it.
Yeah, you can't right now, can you?
Max will have to go back to the drawing board and win one super impressive fight, and then you could potentially talk about that. But I think we need some breathing room between that matchup. They've essentially fought for 50 minutes, and we really can't tell who the winner is over that time. So let's let the field kind of reshuffle. Let's see if Max can win a fight outside of a title fight to, kind of earn that back at this point. Volkanovski, I think it's a no-brainer that, I mean, the Korean Zombie keeps coming up in my head. That
Thank you!
Makes
Thank you for saying that!
So, I guess we'll see.
Korean Zombie, guys, Korean Zombie is getting so disrespected. People are saying, "Oh yeah, Yair versus Zabit to fight Volk." Okay, that's nice. I mean, look, respect to them. I know Yair won that Hail Mary, the biggest fluke in all of MMA history win against Korean Zombie. Credit to him for that. But this is crazy, guys. I mean, this is crazy. And now, they're talking about, Korean Zombie, Brian Ortega. Ortega literally spent a year dodging the fight. If you put Korean Zombie against Volk next, I guarantee you Volk does not make it out. He doesn't make it out of the 5 rounds. He doesn't get out of 5 rounds. No way.
You want to know what would be the funniest thing? Is if Ortega ended up having to fight Max again after that year-plus layoff.
It's been floated, and I think it would be great. I think it would be fantastic.
I think he would be terrified of that fight.
I know, and all the more reason to make it. I mean, seriously, is there a more unlikable guy than Brian Ortega, the translator attacker? I mean, feed him to Max. Have Max retire him for good.
Or what if you did Max versus Josh Emmett?
I like them both.
Well, still, you got to make a relevant matchup. So
I think the relevant matchup is Max, Brian, too. Let's see how Brian's feeling, Take a few anxiety jogs, and let's see what happens there.
All right.
Okay. All right. Moving on to the main event, which we touched on a little bit, but getting into it. Camaro Usman defeats Jorge Masvidal via unanimous decision in what was, many are saying a lackluster, unexciting fight. Honestly, I agree that first round was very exciting, though. I was very excited.
Yeah. No, it was exciting in spurts, but I mean, I think the first Fight Island card was a tad underwhelming as far as the action is concerned. The UFC Apex cards really were unbelievable, so this was a little bit of a letdown action-wise, but like I said earlier, still a great performance by Camaro. He went in there, dominated, left with his belt. He's got a big scalp on his resume now, and he's set up to fight whoever's next. I mean,
absolutely.
Obviously, he's not going to turn into a pay-per-view star overnight, but I think Tyron Woodley, even after four title defenses, was still not pulling any pay-per-view numbers. So this is not unheard of.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually on that note, I wanted to sort of give my final thoughts here on Usman and his win. Like you just said, Tyron Woodley was arguably a much more exciting fighter. Maybe that's debatable, but he was definitely more exciting. A power puncher that often finished fights. I know some of his title defenses were not as exciting, but, I think it's fair to say he had a more exciting style than Usman overall. He never got fans, and he was, the third greatest welterweight of all time. He had 4 title defenses. I think Usman needs to... he needs to embrace the fact that he will never be popular, and just literally embrace it.
But see, I don't think you should embrace the fact that you'll never be popular because things change. What if Usman is the belt holder for the next 2 years, and he's on a legendary run?
Woodley got 4 title defenses. No one liked him. No one. He had 4 title defenses. He's the third greatest welterweight of all time.
Tyron Woodley finally got enough fans to where he thought he could have a music career, so I challenge that statement.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I still can't believe that happened. No, but honestly, see, again, I don't want you to think I'm dissing Camaro. I'm trying to give him a compliment here. If I am Camaro...
But what I'm saying is you make these absolute statements about who someone will be for the entirety of their career, but that's not the way it is, Phil.
Okay,
Jorge Masvidal was not a pay-per-view star for 16 years of his career, and for one, he is. So
Usman's not an exciting striker, though.
But who knows where he'll be in 16 years?
Well, that's
I'm just
true.
using it as an example.
If Camaro Usman is still fighting in 16 years, he doesn't need the belt. If he's still fighting in 16 years, I will...
Well, that would make him 51, so I doubt he'll have the belt.
Okay. Wow, that's some quick math there. Okay. All right, yeah.
All right, are we good to go on to the breakdown?
I think we're good to go. My last question is, who's next for Usman? I think it's very clear. It has to be Gilbert Burns. I know Ariel Helwani went on his show and said you've got to do Leon Edwards versus Burns, which was very
absurd.
Well, it's clear. It was, and really quickly, I have to talk about this. It was very disappointing. I know Ariel gets a lot of hate, but I've honestly always had a lot of respect for him. And this was the first time that I saw that his journalistic integrity has kind of taken a very serious dive. It was clear to me that the reason that he wants this, the reason he doesn't like Burns, is because he knows that it doesn't favor Ariel Helwani's MMA show, because he knows he won't get an interview with Burns because of his fight with Ali. So to now be trying to use his power to create illegitimate title fights for the benefit of his MMA podcast, to me, that's the kind of reputational damage that you can never recover from.
Sure, man, whatever you say.
Do you disagree? Am I wrong?
I honestly don't care about Ariel Helwani's journalistic integrity, but
he's only by far the biggest MMA media member, by far. So.
Right. That's great.
Okay. All right. I guess
you lost me with whatever you were talking about there. Sorry, man.
Okay. All right. Well, then we will move on. So, moving on to the UFC. See, guys, it's not even listening. Thanks a lot, Fight Geek. Anyways.
I just want to talk about fights, man, not about what all your best
All right, we're moving on. UFC
podcast.
Fight Island 1. Preview and picks. Let's take a quick look at that main card. We've got the return of Abdul Razak Al Hassan versus Munir Lazaz, and Al Hassan, really quickly, it's worth discussing. Very sad story for him. He was accused of brutal rape 2 years ago, and his entire career was totally dismantled. He was found completely not guilty in a court of law recently, completely exonerated, and my heart goes out to him, because those are the horror stories that, I don't think they happen often, but what a dirty shame that is. Just disgraceful stuff. I wish those victims would, or the so-called victims, I should say, should definitely go to prison instead of him. It's crazy that there's no criminal charges for that. I just feel horrible for Al Hassan, and I had to mention it.
Okay. Well, this is not a...
It's relevant. It's a relevant story. Al Hassan's been gone for 2 years. You want to
talk about everything other than fights? Can we just talk about fights?
I'm going to give the relevant background here. So it's okay.
The real question is what does Ariel Helwani think about Abdul Razak?
Okay. All right. Now, okay, stop. Al Hassan versus Lazaz. Who you got?
I'm going to go with Al Hassan here. I think that obviously he's at a layoff. Before his layoff, he was looking very good. Obviously, extremely explosive striker. Looked to be a very top prospect. So I'm going to take him in a big comeback fight.
Yep, I'm taking Al Hassan by second round knockout. I think he's coming back with a vengeance. I think he's fired up, probably very upset. Rightfully so, and I think he's going to show it in his performance. So really, and by the way, I just became a big Al Hassan fan.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Okay,
moving on. Molly McCann versus Talia Santos. I've got Meatball Molly McCann via unanimous decision. What about you?
Yep, I'm going the same way. I'm taking Meatball Molly. I just think that it should be a little too much in this one, and I think unanimous decision makes a lot of sense.
Okay, great. Now this one's real interesting. Jimmy Rivera moving up to featherweight to take on Cody Stamann. I think this is a really interesting one at 145, and would love to hear your thoughts on who you got here.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Obviously, Jimmy probably feels like his path to the title is a little longer at 135, considering who he's lost to at this point. So, taking a stab up. Stylistically, they're very similar, but I do lean towards Cody Stamann here. I've been very impressed with his boxing. Obviously, he looked great in his last fight. So, I'm going to take Cody Stamann by unanimous decision.
I got Cody Stamann by third round finish.
Excellent.
All right, moving on to the co-main event. Tim Elliott versus Ryan Benoit at flyweight. This is an interesting one.
Yeah, it is interesting. Seems like every time I pick Tim Elliott, he ends up losing in exciting fashion. But I'm going to take him again. I just feel like he's better than Ryan Benoit. He's been around forever. He has, the better ground game. So I'm taking Tim Elliott. With that said, he'll probably hand his neck to Benoit in the second round.
Yeah, I actually, it's funny you mentioned that. I do have Benoit pulling the submission upset in the second round. So we'll see, though. We'll see.
That would be the most Tim Elliott thing ever.
That's why, I mean, I do think that Tim Elliott seems to get a little nervous in perhaps in big moments or, just in close fights. I have a feeling he's going to give this one up, but we'll see. We'll see. I've got Benoit. So moving on to the main event, Kelvin Kattar versus Dan Ige, which is actually a really fun one. Really fun fight. I was surprised when they made it, if I'm being totally honest, because it did feel a little weird. It feels like Ige is this rising star. Kattar is even more of a rising star, and why do you want to kind of kill one of them off?
And it really, to me, feels like a co-main event. I mean, I hate to be a hater.
Oh, now I don't know if that's a little harsh.
It seems like a co-main to me, but I'm going to go with Kelvin Kattar here. Just been really impressed with him. He's obviously the bigger man here. I don't know if you saw the weigh-ins today, but he looks to have a significant size advantage over Ige, who's incredibly game, tough, skilled, but so is Kattar. I'm leaning towards Kattar's pocket boxing. Ige has great boxing as well. I just think Kattar will get the better of those exchanges, and I'm taking Kattar via fourth round TKO.
Okay, yeah. I'm taking Kattar versus second round TKO. And I've said this before. I think I said this after the Kattar versus Jeremy Stephens fight. Kattar is one of my favorite fighters to watch. I think he's one of the most crisp strikers in the UFC right now. He is very much for real. He is going to be a future title contender for sure. Possibly champ. I'm not ready to say he's a future champ, but he's a future contender who's going to be in a title fight, mark my words. And he is going to take some, Dan Ige is a great fighter. He's going to take some tough stuff, and then Kattar's going to put him away in the second. That's what I think.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to that one. It should be back and forth fight up until whatever happens.
Absolutely. Are we ready to move on to UFC Fight Island 2, which is happening this Saturday? So many fights. I love it.
Let's go.
All right. So this is Benavidez versus Figueiredo 2 for the World Flyweight Championship. And we are going to jump into the picks on the main card, starting with Alexander Pantoja versus Askarov. This is a flyweight fight. Who you got?
I spent like an hour breaking this fight down. It's so close. It could go either way. Both guys are so good. I really could make a case either way, but with that said, I'm going to lean towards Pantoja. I think he's obviously more experienced, very game, so is Asgar, but I think that Pantoja will pull out a split decision in a very close dogfight.
I completely agree with how close it's going to be. A very close dogfight is exactly how I would describe it, but I do think that you're underestimating Askarov just a little. I understand how good Pantoja is. I think Askarov pulls off the close unanimous decision 29-28.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't shock me. I think it's going to be really close action, and it'll just be probably situational. Who wins a couple positions will probably win the fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so moving on to this this main event fight between two female flyweights, Luana Carolina of Brazil versus Ariana Lipski of Brazil. I personally have Lipski winning this one via unanimous decision, but would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm right there with you, taking Lipski. I think she's set up for the win here. I mean, I think she's someone that the UFC is invested in. Obviously, she looked good in her last fight. I think she's a developing prospect, and definitely taking her.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, moving on to the third to last fight of the night, Mark Giacchese versus Raphael Viziev. I hope I'm not screwing that up, but this is a very interesting one. Raphael 7-1. He's the number 89 lightweight in the world versus Mark Giacchese, who's the number 26 lightweight in the world. But this should be a very fun, very competitive fight, and I'm very curious who you have here.
Well, definitely going with Giacchese here. I mean, Giacchese has shown quite a bit of improvement. I think his last fight was probably the best performance of his career.
Yep.
Very surprising. So I think he rides that momentum into this fight versus a guy who doesn't have quite as much experience as him. So I'm taking Giacchese via second round stoppage.
Ooh, okay. And I've got Mark Giacchese to win this via third round TKO.
Excellent. All right, now let's get into the good stuff.
Okay, this is a great one. This is a great co-main event, by the way. Great co-main. Jack Hermansen versus Kelvin Gastelum. So this fight was one I've been going back and forth on. Really going back. I think there's actually a lot at stake here, particularly, I hate to say, particularly for Kelvin. I mean, it's easy to remember. He was, he's less than 24 hours away from a title fight against, Robert Whittaker that, knowing what we know now, he almost certainly would have won, knowing what we know now, of course, about, even Whittaker said as much. UFC 234, obviously that was taken away from him. Then he suffers that fantastic fight of the year contender against Izzy, loses that one barely, and then he lost that Till fight, and it just kind of feels like everyone's forgotten about him. So hopefully Kelvin is going to come in very motivated. I really hope he does, because it'd be a big fall if he loses this one. Jack's a tricky fighter, but I've got Kelvin Gastelum getting the TKO in the second round.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't think it would be as detrimental if Kelvin, for some reason, loses. Obviously, I think Kelvin Gastelum's still only like 26, right, or 27. I mean, the guy's so young. He obviously, that fight versus Israel Adesanya, I think that's probably, his stock rose in that loss more than it rose in any win of his career.
Yeah, Kelvin's 28, by the way. So, yeah, I mean, you're right. He's still very young.
He's got a lot of time, especially in the 185-pound division, which is not one of the deeper divisions.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's really make or break for either guy. But if they want any shot or any legitimate shot at the title in the near future, it's obviously a must-win. But with that said, I'm going to go ahead and take Kelvin Gastelum. I just think he'll be more comfortable on the feet than Hermansen. He'll win on the feet. And then Kelvin is very good at wrestling, his defensive wrestling, and he's extremely hard to submit, which is Hermansen's game. So I think that Kelvin will be able to nullify Hermansen's strengths enough to win. And I'm going to say he stops Jack in the fourth round.
Wait, it's only a 3-round fight.
Oh, yeah, you're right. In the third round, sorry.
Okay, all right.
This should be a main event, actually.
No, I completely agree, by the way. Totally agree. I think that's a little bit of a weird co-main. But, yeah.
I don't know why I was thinking that, but I almost feel like co-main should be 5 rounds now.
Ooh, I don't even hate that, by the way. You know me, I'm a big 5-round fight fan, so.
I mean, I would have, it's tough because I would have loved to see 5 rounds for Rose versus Andraj rematch.
I wouldn't have with the way it was going.
Yeah, well, right. The way it was going, it looks like Andraj would have won, right?
Yeah, that's why I don't want it. That's why I didn't want it to be 5, because I like.
So Rose. Yeah. So anyways, I'll take Kelvin stopping him in the third round.
Okay, great. And now moving on to our main event for the UFC Vacant Flyweight Championship. Let's try it one more time. This fight's already happened for the vacant title, but Figueiredo missed weight and won, so now they're running it back. Device and Figueiredo, 18...
And he might have COVID, so we don't even know if this fight is going through.
I've been following it. It's looking tentatively good.
Okay.
But anyways, you're right. No, you are right. So right now it's Device and Figueiredo versus Joseph Benavidez 2 for the vacant flyweight championship. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on who you got and why.
Well, we just saw it a couple months ago, so
yeah, we did.
I have a feeling it's going to go a lot like it did a couple months ago. I don't think
Figueiredo missed weight though. Will that be a factor? Last time he missed weight.
Yeah, well, are you saying that the fact that he missed weight made him perform better?
I might be. I'm asking the question. I'm not saying it.
Right.
I'm just asking the question.
I think he performed how he always performs. He looked pretty standard. I don't think that the extra couple pounds changed the way he performed. I think it obviously nullified his ability to get the title and is very unprofessional, but I don't think it swung the action that much. So I expect the action to be very similar. I do expect him to make weight because of the fact that he missed weight last time, and it's kind of like a do or die. If you miss weight on twice for a vacant title, I can assure you Uncle Dana's not giving you a third one. So I would expect him to make weight, and then I would expect the action to go the same. I just don't see how Joseph Benavidez can get inside of Figueiredo, especially on the feet. Figueiredo's bigger, stronger, faster, it seems. And it's only a matter of time before he finishes Joey B again, unfortunately, in my opinion.
Totally agree. I've got Joey B for the record doing a little bit better, making it a little bit more competitive. I've got Figgy finishing Joey B in the 4th round. Let me just quickly say that I am one of the only, if not the only, Figgy fan. I'm calling him Figgy. I like him. I like his kind of weird spoiler heel personality. I know it's probably not on purpose, but he did play heel spoiler last time, right? He kind of ruined the flyweight belt. But I've kind of learned to...
and who doesn't like Figueiredo? The guy's awesome.
I think Figgy's cool, but a lot of people, are very loyal to Joseph Benavidez, which I understand. I respect that, and they want to see him get that belt.
Well, that's... Yeah, that would be a nice story, but you got to win the fight.
Right. And yeah, I got Figgy, getting that finish in the 4th. So, all right, are we ready to take a really quick break, and then when we're back, we'll be back with listener questions and more?
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll be right back, folks. Hey guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude letting you know that this episode of the Split Decision Podcast is brought to you by TotalAggressionClothing.com. Visit www.TotalAggressionClothing.com and use the promo code 46210 to receive a special Split Podcast discount on all Total Aggression hats, shirts, hoodies, and more. Again, that's www.TotalAggressionClothing.com with promo code 46210. Hey guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude back with the Split Decision Podcast, episode number 72, here with my always brilliant co-host, the Fight Geek, and it is now time for my favorite section of all, Listener Questions!
All right.
I've been working on my singing voice. I don't know if you noticed.
Yeah, it sounded like you came with a little more bass this time.
I tried to bring more of that baritone. Everyone's saying that I sound like I've got falsetto and I'm a soprano, and I was like, no, let me bring that down. So yeah, thank you. I've been working on the deep voice.
You just do you, Phil.
I appreciate that. Okay, first question is from Proper Vegetables. That's at the Gamer357. He says, who would do better in a rematch against Usman, Jorge or Colby? #AskSplitPod.
I'm going to say Colby.
Yep, totally agree.
I just think stylistically, Colby and Usman may be boring fighters versus other guys, but I think they bring something out in each other stylistically. I thought that fight was awesome to watch. So
I was just going to say, lest anyone forget, that was one of the greatest welterweight title fights of all time, in my opinion.
Right, for sure. So I actually think Colby has a better chance of beating Usman.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And just look at, I would just point to, the results of the first two fights, right? I mean, Masvidal, in my opinion, he did win a round, but, who cares, as you said. Colby was, no one likes to say this, he was about 1 minute and 56, 57 seconds away from being the new champion. And then, obviously, Usman did what he did. He stepped it up as champion should. And he knocked down Colby, and it was really, pretty much the end from there. But Let's not forget how close that fight was until the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, yeah, I agree. Colby for sure. Hopefully we get to see that rematch. I would love to see that. Next question is from Jokers LL, my man. And he says, if Max moves to 155, who do you think his first fight should be against? Throw him to the wolves with Tony, ? Or maybe lower down like Hooker or Oliveira? Would you put him at the bottom of the top 15 with Gregor and the like? P.S. Max was robbed. #AskSplitPod.
I got an interesting name here. So, obviously, if Max moves to 155, I don't think he should personally, but if he were to
I don't either. I really hope he doesn't. It's a mistake.
He cannot jump to the top 5 or 6 immediately just because.
Wait, yes, he can. What?
Well, he can, but I mean, I don't like Max's chances against a Dan Hooker based on size and strength. Do you?
No, I don't. I really, really, really don't want Max moving up. I know.
So if he did move up, what I'm saying is you'd have to give him someone like, and hear me out, like a Cowboy Cerrone, so that he could get a win at 155 versus a big name and kind of establish himself. If you bring Max up and toss him to the top 5 of the lightweight division, he is not going to look good, in my opinion.
Although he did do underratedly decent against Poirier. In the rematch.
Yeah, he held his own, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. It's in terms of wins. Yeah, I mean, if I'm anyone who is remotely close to Max Holloway or has his ear remotely, I'm sitting him down and saying, please don't move up. I know you're frustrated with the outcome. Look, you won that fight. We both know it. Just please.
And the fact remains is that even if Max didn't win that fight, he's within.
He proved his point that he is in his prime.
Well, his point is he's basically equal to the champion of the world right now in that weight class. So it's not like he needs to leave. He's as good as the champion on any given day.
Yep. Completely agree. So really hope that Max stays. I think personally they should make Volkanovski versus Korean Zombie. First of all, just because I think it would be the most competitive fight for Volk, and I just want to see great fights. I don't think Volk makes it to the scorecards. I really don't in that fight. I know that's kind of controversial. And then I would love to see Holloway versus Ortega too. Have Ortega face his demons and either win or lose and
go do Pantene commercials.
Hey, you said it, not me, but I'm glad you said it because that's what I wanted to say.
All right. I got one queued up here from a reusable shoe.
A reusable shoe, an OG of the show. What up?
He says, do you think Cejudo could beat Volkanovski?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean, there's a part of Henry that always makes me curious because one thing about Henry is he's a gamer. So I think he would be game and he'd be up for the challenge. But no, I think Volk is just a little too much. And Volk is very technically sound. He really is. Yeah,
and by the way, I really like Triple C. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm a Triple C fan. I miss Triple C. I wish he was back because I think...
What do you mean? He's tweeting on the hour.
I know. But for the record...
He's not hard to find.
Yeah, that's true. Let me put it this way, though. Do I think Triple C can beat Volk? I do not. Do I think Triple Z can beat Jan? Oh, yeah. Yes.
Well, and at this point, I feel like for Triple C, the Jan fight is bigger than the Volk fight at this point anyways, isn't it? For him.
I mean
it doesn't offer that third belt, but I think for his legacy and his relevant weight classes, Peter Yan is his modern contemporary. That's the guy he needs to beat. He needs to beat that batch of guys, not guys that are outside of his realm and his division,
Oh, I'm so annoyed. Why did Cejudo retire? I mean, I hate to just keep parroting people I respect, but Chael Sonnen did an entire show that is I highly recommend it, guys, talking about Cejudo's situation and how if you really feel like you want more money and Dana says no, there are many creative ways to get that money. Many. And it just sucks.
Henry created the Triple C moniker. He's not very creative.
That's true. You know what? Touche. That's a good answer. A good point. Okay. So moving on. This question is from Eduardo. That's at Landa Crew, an original gangster of the show. Again, he says, which potential rematch do you see favoring the loser of the first matchup?
And is this like out of any fight that's been, or a rumored rematches? This is a little open-ended for me. What is it? What does this mean?
Yeah, it's very open-ended. It's a close. Oh man, I wish I had time to think about this question beforehand. Yeah. I mean, because obviously you know what I want to say, right? I want to say Holloway, Volk 3, Holloway.
Right, or Joanna versus Whaley is a good.
That's one. That's a very good one. I don't. But so would you favor JJ to win that, or would it just be really like 50-50?
I mean, it really is 50-50, but I could see her winning.
Oh, I've got an answer. I've got an answer.
I wouldn't favor her, but that's the one that came to mind when I saw the question.
I've got a big answer. Dominic Reyes-Jones.
That's one. That
Reyes already won the fight one time.
You feel very strongly about, so I'm good with that.
I forget. Did you score this? Did you score it on the night for Reyes or Jones?
I scored it for Jones the night of.
So did I. So did I, by the way.
Here's one. Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor.
Ooh, you might upset some McGregor fans with that, but I don't disagree.
On Conor's birthday, and I go and say something like that.
Yeah, how dare you? Don't you know Conor's a god, and that if you say anything bad about him, you're casual?
Okay. I just want to see him fight again. But okay, so there's a couple off the top of my head that I could think of. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, so
here's one more.
Yeah.
If Yoel and Whitaker ever fought again, Yoel would win.
Well, they've already fought twice again, so.
Well, what I'm saying is, if there's another fight, what's the third rematch called?
Rubber match, but that's if it's 1-1.
Yeah. So, all right, that's plenty of answers on that.
Okay, yeah. Moving on to at Octopus_toes. Octopus toes. Love you, Octopus toes.
Why'd you say it like that?
What do you mean? How did I say it? I was just gonna say, love you, Octopus toes, because he used to have a AV of like an interesting like a jester, like a court jester. But now he's rocking his beard, he's rocking his facial hair. Which, by the way, Octopus toes, I'm jealous. I can't grow any facial hair, so I'm just kind of jealous about that. But that's enough of that. Moving on to his question. About the ref in the Aldo Jan fight. First of all, that was a bad stoppage. Secondly, he was pretty bad throughout the fight. He reached in when they were scrambling, grabbed Aldo's hand so Jan could hit him with a brutal body shot, kept making remarks about Jan keeping his fingers out, and every time he did, Jan froze up and Aldo hit him with the jab. I get that the ref wants to avoid eye pokes, and that's obviously good, but it messes up your timing when someone is constantly talking. So my question basically is, how actively involved do you guys think the ref should be?
Very good question.
Yeah, excellent question.
It was an atrocious stoppage, obviously, and I thought it was funny. Dominic Cruz, obviously his last stoppage was somewhat controversial, and then Aldo gets that kind of a leash to recover. It was just kind of like an interesting dichotomy to see that one legend is able to get this super long leash when it comes to the stoppage, and other legends may not. So I'm not sure what it is about Jose Aldo, where he really does seem to get that long leash when he's in trouble. But I think it was clear that he was hurt to the body. He was not intelligently defending himself. He was face down on the mat. I had a party full of people. It was horrible television. I mean, it's an empty arena. Guy face down, just taking thudding shots to the back and side of the head. Aldo had nothing left. I mean, we've seen that exact scenario play out twice with Max Holloway. It looked almost identical. He got wore down. He got taken down. He got in a compromising position, and then he was just eating unanswered shots. Yep. So not sure what the ref was looking at. Obviously, never like the ref touching. Never like, him inserting himself in the action. I agree that, them constantly inserting themselves affects the focus of the fighters, can obviously be annoying or distracting. So, yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't like the refs to interact unless they're calling off the fight or basically, calling a break for some kind of penalty. Other than that, I don't want to see the refs in there. So I'm with you there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, honestly, my 2 cents, I have no problem with refs occasionally warning, hey, keep those fingers pointed high, not towards your opponent, or keep those,
Yeah, but
keep
say
those
it once
in.
or twice. Don't say it 7 times during the fight.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. I'm not like you said, I'm not at all. I have no problem with refs communicating throughout the fight, but say it once or twice and then shut up. And then if they don't listen, guess what? Now they have to pay the consequences. Take a point.
I think one thing I've been seeing a lot lately, is fence grabbing. Are we not?
Yes, I've seen a lot of fence grabbing. It's true.
Can we start getting points deducted for fence grabbing, for egregious eye pokes and stuff like that? Maybe it would make some of the scoring make a little more sense, because I see guys grabbing the fence literally every card, and they're not even getting warnings anymore.
Oh, I think they usually get warnings. They don't get punished, though. That's for sure.
I mean, I've seen fighters grab. Who was the last one that was really?
It happened. I know what you're talking about. I mean, I know it happened on Saturday. I remember a moment. I think it was the 40-year-old guy who was tall who lost. He was grabbing the fence.
Well, even Masvidal reversed off the cage using his toes, which is illegal, correct or not?
Yeah, I mean, it is, of course. I mean, we can go back to McGregor-Khabib. McGregor had his toes locked in that cage half the fight.
My point is like, if they're going to interject themselves in the fights, interject yourself where it matters, when people are cheating and things like that. Don't just interject yourself to interject.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
I do not disagree with you. Okay, so this question comes from Juice with Fighting With Myself podcast. Great show. Love Juice. Good friend. He says, what are your thoughts on Paul Felder commentating the fights this week, but also cornering Jared Gordon? And for those that don't know, Jared Gordon's entire team tested positive for COVID. Felder was scheduled to commentate the fights, but felt that he could not abandon his guy, Jared Gordon, like that. So he will quite literally be cornering Jared during his fight. He'll be commentating. He will go back. He'll go and corner Jared in his full suit and then return to the commentating desk. And what are your thoughts on that, Fight Geek?
Well, I think it's super cool. Obviously, it's very fortuitous for Gordon. He has a teammate. He has an experienced fighter, an elite fighter as a teammate who can coach him. I think it is a really cool situation that is working out for Gordon. I don't know what else to say there. I think it's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess if the kinds of people that aren't fun at parties and complain and just want to play board games all night when you've got 50 people over are the types that are going to say, well, I think it's unprofessional. I think it's showing his bias. And it's like, shut up. Just shut the fuck up, guys. Just shut up.
Considering Lattori Gonzalez was a coach a few weeks ago,
seriously.
I don't see why anyone would have any issue with Paul Felder being the coach or the corner man.
I mean, you're preaching the choir. I certainly don't. Like you said, I think it's extremely cool that he's doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's not earth-shattering information, but it's cool that Gordon won't have to be at a disadvantage that way.
I know, and just remember, I mean, look, Paul takes his broadcasting career very seriously. He didn't have to do that. And he's chosen to. So I think he deserves some credit because he did not have to do that.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Definitely kudos to Felder.
Absolutely. Okay, moving on to my man, Cyrus King. He's got a podcast, Combat Corner, that I love. Follow Cyrus King, guys. Great dude. He says, do you think it was a bad idea for Max to fight Volk so soon? Whether we say Max really won, in the record books, he still lost. Do you think it would have been better to fight someone else first before taking on Volk again? #AskSplitPod.
I mean, in retrospect, yes.
Oh, really? You really say that? I mean, I feel like Max came with the perfect the perfect game plan after losing the first fight.
I'm never a fan of the immediate rematches, especially like Cody, TJ, stuff like that. I think that, the immediate rematch doesn't allow for enough time, A, to be fair to the division, and B, to really make huge adjustments, although I guess I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth because Max did make some adjustments, but I'm not a fan of these super quick turnarounds and immediate rematches. So I could have saw a match for each guy and then coming back to each other. Because now Max lost on paper, and now he's in no man's land, exactly like Cyrus said. So,
yeah,
in retrospect, it's easy to say yes. But leading up to the fight, it was easy to say, oh, sure, let's do the instant rematch. But with the way things played out, I don't think you can look back and say that Max played it right.
No, I agree.
Because now he's 28 with no shot to the title in the immediate future.
Right. I agree. I think that if I'm Max, I mean, look, I don't know if you heard Dana after the fight. Dana said, did anyone in here scored for Volk? I mean, he was, which I thought was overly harsh, but he threw Volk under the bus. He showed a very clear allegiance with Holloway here. So I think, again, like you said, Holloway just needs one big win, and they're forcing that third. I don't care that he's down 0-2. One big win, he's back in there. Third fight.
No doubt. I could see that.
Yeah.
And depending on who that is, too, for sure.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it would need to be against, obviously a top contender. Okay, so moving on to a question from my man, Jacob Powers, at Jacob Powers 2. And he says, #AskSplitPod. Oh, where should Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski go from here? Would now be the time for Max to move to 155. I just wanted to read out the question, Jacob. We've obviously just gone over this, but, my opinion is definitely Max should not move to 155. I think he should push for the Ortega rematch, take Brian Soule for good once and for all. Sorry for Ortega fans.
And I definitely think that Josh Emmett fight makes a lot of sense. Josh Emmett needs
But Josh Emmett's so injured. That's just what I keep going back to.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
He's not going to be able to fight for at least a year.
That's true. I keep forgetting about that, but I like that matchup.
Yeah, I know. I do too. I definitely do too.
How about this? If Kelvin Kattar wins, Kelvin Kattar versus Max Holloway.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah. I have no problem with that, frankly.
Because, I know the Ortega fight is intriguing, but the whole point of Max falling back in line is getting some fresh matchups. So I don't want to see him fight the same guys. There's all these names at 145 I've never gotten to see Max fight that I'm interested to see him in there with. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Max versus the Korean Zombie, Max versus Yair, Max versus any of those guys, Qatar. Those are fun fights.
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. No, I totally agree. And I think that if Kelvin Kattar wins against Ige, which I expect him to, I have no problem with Holloway versus Kattar. Okay, so moving on. So this is from Glitch at MMA Port. Another OG of the show, always bringing the fire questions. He says, #AskSplitPod. If Cejudo came back, will the UFC book him against Peter Yan? Will they give Aljo what he already earned?
Well, considering how non-committal Dana was after the fight this past weekend, I would assume that Henry would get that shot over Aljo. Just the way I feel.
Yeah, I think you're right. The only thing is would Dana be concerned about Cejudo leaving again with a win?
I'm not sure, but I think at this point, Yan versus Cejudo is a much bigger fight for the viewers than Aljo versus Yan.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Even though Aljo versus Yan is the fight, Henry versus Yan is a much bigger fight in terms of gravity. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no doubt about that. Hard to disagree there, honestly. So moving on to a question from Combat Sports with Rhino. Great podcast. What's up, Rhino? He says, let's say that Joey B wins the 125-pound title. Is he the fighter that can draw more interest in the division? DJ is one of the best in the sport ever, and by all accounts, he didn't draw pay-per-view buys. Is there anyone who can? #AskSplitPod. This is a great question, Rhino.
Great question. I obviously, let's say Joseph Benavidez were to win. He does not have the type of star power that I feel would draw people to that weight class. He's been around long enough. He's a known commodity. he's been around almost a decade in the UFC. So I think Benavidez has somewhat reached his peak in popularity. Obviously, a belt would increase that, but I just don't see him being that needle mover, even as the title holder.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I see a 125er on the roster right now where he'll be a big draw. But the landscape changes soon. My favorite 125ers is, Brandon Moreno. And you have a lot of top contenders in that class. I just don't know if you have anyone who's going to break through right now. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, I think that, Figgy, a.k.a. Figueiredo, despite the fact that he doesn't speak English and kind of looks like a weird cartoon Tasmanian devil, I think I don't know, there's something about, I definitely really like his style.
Right, but the fact that he missed weight and then knocked out Joseph Benavidez is a big stain on his public reputation.
And what if he makes weight and knocks out Joey B again?
I'm not sure that moves the needle all too much, honestly.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, I can only speak for myself.
So Joseph Benavidez at this point is 0-3 in title fights, right?
He's about to go 0-4.
Yeah, so, I mean, and he never had the star power of like a Uriah Faber or someone like that. So yeah, I think that I don't see Joseph Benavidez being that guy. Honestly, it's going to take someone like I know Sean O'Malley's not in that weight class, but it'll be some new interesting blood with some personality like that'll have to come onto the scene, because I just don't see any of the current crop really like capturing the imagination of the casual fan.
Yep. I do tend to agree, although personally I've actually enjoyed flyweight.
Well, of course, recently. I enjoy all the fights, but what I'm saying is how you're not going to sell Joseph Benavidez to, the ESPN fans, and Stephen A. Smith's not going to be covering him and things like that. So he's not going to be a crossover star as a champion. I feel pretty confident about that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Okay, moving on.
But I do love Joseph Benavidez, though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's hard to dislike the guy, right? I mean, everyone feels like, including myself, that it feels like, almost give him an honorary belt, just to send him on his way. Maybe that's very condescending and patronizing, but whatever. I don't feel bad for him. He's married to Megan O'Leary, so cry me a river, Joseph.
Exactly. So he already won the championship.
Yeah, exactly. It's like even when he loses, he wins. Like, come on, guys, seriously. But okay, this question is from at Dean Dog 3. Dean R, another OG of the show. What's up, Dean? He says, does anyone actually want to see an immediate rematch between Usman and Masvidal? Jorge says that's all he wants next. What are your thoughts? #AskSplitPod.
No, I don't want to see that rematch right away. I want to see Jorge beat Leon Edwards and prove that he deserves that title shot.
See, and okay, first of all, I completely agree with you that I do not want to see Masvidal Usman 2. I also don't think Masvidal actually wants that fight. I think he's just being a smart businessman, and he knows that's the good, cool answer.
He was being very PC post-fight.
Yeah, no, he's now, he got paid. He's being smart. He's a businessman now. And by the way, as he should be. I'm not throwing any shade with that. He deserves to get paid. But he knows that fight is not happening next. He knows it's not happening soon, and he doesn't want it to. He knows that he's proven himself as a major superstar, whether people like it or not. I mean, 1.3 million pay-per-view buys, that speaks for itself. That beat Conor McGregor's return at UFC 246 by 300,000, by the way. So, that's a big deal. I think that Masvidal Usman 2 has no appeal right now. I think Masvidal secretly knows that. I think he knows that fight will not happen next. And, that's really what I have to say about that one.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I don't think that's the fight to make next. I think there's fights for both guys. And if Masvidal really is as determined to get another title shot as he says he is, then beat Rocky Edwards. He's sitting right there. He's a top 3 guy in the division. Beat that guy, and then your claim back to the title is pretty easy.
So if you're okay, let me ask you this, just real quick. If you're Dana White, okay, Fight Geek. So who are you putting Masvidal against next? And are you making it a pay-per-view headliner or not?
Well, I mean, again, there's many ways to go here. Obviously, the Nate Diaz fight is a pay-per-view headliner, but beating Nate Diaz should not get you a title shot.
We're not talking about title shots. We're just talking about what's next for Jorge and whether it's a headliner of a pay-per-view.
I know, but you're not listening. Jorge, all he has said since he left the fight is that he wants a title fight again. He wants to get back to the title fight. He wants to get back to the title fight.
He wants to get back to it in like 2 years.
Right. Nate Diaz fight is not going to get him back to the title fight. That's a completely irrelevant fight as far as the title picture is concerned.
So but I mean, I think we just both agreed that what Jorge says and what he wants are two very different things, right?
No, I'm not like you assuming to know. I'm just saying what he said.
So you're saying Masvidal definitely wants Usman next for real?
Well, I'm saying if he wants Usman next, he should take. If he wants to get back to Usman, he needs to take Leon Edwards because Nate Diaz is not getting him a title shot. I don't understand why you don't understand that.
Oh, I understand it perfectly. I'm trying to get you to understand business and money. If I'm Dana White, you make Masvidal Diaz 2 for money. I understand it has nothing to do with a title shot, of course.
Right, but that's all Masvidal's talking about is that he wants another title shot.
Yeah, because it makes him look cool. No, it's a good look. It's a good look for his brand. I'd say the same thing.
Okay, so you're saying that he doesn't mean what he's
That's saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. Exactly.
Okay.
You disagree?
Psychoanalysis by Phil the MMA dude. Okay.
Ooh, a psychoanalysis. Mikey thinks I'm a psycho for saying that Masvidal does not want Usman 2 next. All right, fair enough.
Well, why would you say he doesn't when he's been on record as saying he does? You know more. I just don't understand how you can discredit what someone says out of their own mouth.
I just think it's this. Feige, come on, man. Because it's the smart business move. It's the cool thing to say. That's what you should say.
That makes sense, obviously. But you speak with so much authority on what other people are thinking and doing. It's like you don't know.
You've known me for 2.5 years. No shit.
Right. I'm just saying. Have a little bit of an open-ended conversation here. There could be something going on with Jorge that you're not privy to.
That's definitely true. And if they make Usman Masvidal 2 next, I mean, look, I'm here to eat all the crow. So
no, right? That's not what we were talking about. We were talking about the merits of Nate Diaz fight versus a Rocky Edwards fight. But
I understand. I just think Dana's going to make a financial decision rather than what's best in terms of ranking fairness.
And Rocky Edwards would probably beat Masvidal. So
we disagree there. Don't get me started on Rocky. Do not get me started on that guy.
All right. Well,
most overrated title contender in a long time. You're
getting a little off the tracks here, buddy.
Yeah, I know. But I just had to put in that little jab.
An hour, and let's keep it moving.
All right. This is at Pat_Tobin. Pat Wood. Oh, love this OG. He says, even though not his fault, will the controversial decision end up having a negative impact on Volkanovski's popularity and reputation as the champ? #AskSplitPod. Fight Geek, start us off.
I mean, in the court of public opinion, I think it will. If I were to compare it to
Of course it will. Let's be honest. Of course it will. How could we possibly say no?
Here's what I would compare it to. When Carlos Condit beat Nick Diaz, but none of the fans thought that. So it was kind of like to this day, even though Condit won that fight, it's almost a stain on his resume. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, and is it even worse now that Volk is a champion?
Right. So I'm not saying it's going to hurt him big time, but I do think when that's referenced, everybody will be like, oh, yeah, he shouldn't have won that fight. That was a fight where Max really won and got screwed by the judges. So I think that will stick with him forever. I don't think that will be the defining aspect of his career, but I think it's something we will always remember.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. I feel, and again, I've said this, but I said this earlier this weekend. I actually feel arguably worse for Volkanovski than I do for Holloway. Everyone feels horrible for Holloway. I feel like he's got so much wind at his back right now. People are really gonna, go to war for him after this, as what they view as a grave injustice. Volkanovski, I mean, again, I took a look at his Instagram. It's brutal. It's about 95% pure hatred. I feel bad for him. He didn't score the fight, guys. Let's keep that in mind. Volk did not score the fight. Even if he secretly thought he lost, you can't blame him, guys. I mean, he didn't score it. He just went out there and fought. So
yeah, I mean, the scoring has nothing to do with the fighters ever. So.
Right. So let's not take it out on Volk just because he probably lost the fight. I mean,
and Volk fought a good fight. Again, people can never see like the silver lining to something. Volkanovski made adjustments in the middle of a title fight and
made it very close.
Huh?
He made it very close after that.
Yeah, he made it very close. He was getting beat badly, made some championship level adjustments, and took some late rounds to make it super close. I mean, I get people being unhappy that Max didn't get the nod, but you can still appreciate the performance on both ends. Like the win and the loss, I know a lot of people think it's everything, but there's a lot more that goes on between the lines than just the win and the loss, you know?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Totally agree.
If you're only watching for wins and losses, I'm afraid you're going to be missing a lot of MMA.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. Okay, so moving on. This is from at the MMA Clown. Hello, sir. Welcome back. I like this guy a lot. He says, which ranked UFC fighter do you think you could stand a chance against if a bar fight was instigated? This
is such a blasphemous question. First of all, I'm just going to go out. There's no fighter in the top 5 that I could probably even come close to beating.
Wait. But, okay, I hear you. Before you even answer further, what about the flyweights? Because I'm looking at David Dvorak, the number 15 flyweight right here, and I'm trying to decide.
Well, it says top 5, doesn't it?
Sorry?
Which ranked? Okay, so ranked.
Yeah, so first, guys, I'm 6'1", 190. I should be 6'1", 185, but COVID.
So if you cut weight, you could get to 170. So you're a welterweight.
That would be a rough cut for old Phil, but yeah.
So you would fight in the 185-pound division?
Oh no, I'm smart enough to at least know that there's no option but to cut to 170 or I would be executed, obviously.
So which of the 170-pounders in the top 15 could you beat?
No one, duh! What kind of a clown would I be to sit here on my little podcast as a little cartoon man and say, I could take number 14 in the welter? Are you kidding me? I'd get my ass whooped so hard, I would start crying for the rest of my life. And this comes from someone who's, I fought many boxing matches amateur. I fought many Muay Thai boxing matches, many Muay Thai sparring matches, a few official Muay Thai fights. I've done a lot of BJJ. I'm not stupid. I know I'd get my ass whooped.
Yeah, I'm looking at the top 15 of every division, and there's not one name that I would feel comfortable.
I would get killed. We would both be killed. Come on. And anyone who says otherwise,
So by bar fight, does it mean I can run up behind someone and smash him with a bottle?
Well, that's a good question. No, that's what thought came to me. It's like, can I take a beer bottle and smash it against, smash it and start, using that as some kind of knife weapon?
So if smashing someone in the back of the head with a beer bottle and then running to my car counts as beating them, then I would feel more comfortable about the question. But as it stands now, no, not happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so next.
That's like saying which team could you play quarterback for in the NFL?
Yes, exactly. I like the question though because I actually think it's a great question, especially because it's a good little trap for to find out if there's any tools who are like, oh, I think I could take number 14,
right?
Number 12.
Or the guy
like, dude, shut up.
The guy you invite to your fight party, and he's like, I do this and I do that.
Oh, yeah. Why isn't he? Why? Just stand up. Why is the guy in the jiu-jitsu like, just stand up, bro?
Right? So, yeah, for sure. It's a way to weed out the delusional folk.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So next question comes from King Richard. That's at @V_King Richard _V. He says, what was y'all's very first UFC card that you watched? Mine was UFC 71, Liddell versus Jackson 2. Fight Geek, go ahead.
Mine was UFC 40, Tito Ortiz versus Ken Shamrock 1.
Oh, geez. I feel like I'm about to be exposed here kind of unfairly.
I know that's always tricky. You know, you don't want to let people know you just started watching the sport 6 years ago.
Okay, first of all, it wasn't 6 years ago. It was 11. UFC 100, July 11th, 2009. That was the first one that I saw. I'm taking this as seeing it live, like seeing it in real time. Obviously, I was well aware of the UFC before this, as I've mentioned on the show. I was a big WEC fan before a formal UFC fan. I was really into Uriah Faber and Chael Sonnen and Jose Aldo and Mike Brown and all the other WEC guys. So I was a casual sticking with that promotion for a while. But UFC 100, I'll never forget. It was actually while I was in college, and actually gathered a bunch of people to go and see that one. It had Brock Lesnar versus Frank Mir. It had GSP versus Alves. Dan Henderson defeating Bisping, and it actually had. And I won't forget this. This was during the time where I was watching DC in Strikeforce, I believe. And John Jones had a fight on the undercard against Jake O'Brien, and he won via submission at 2 minutes and 43 seconds in round number 2. And this is back when I liked John Jones, and I remember liking DC at the same time, so I just thought I'd point that out. This was, I was a Jones fan, believe it or not, guys, for a little bit, and this was during that time.
Well, good to know, man. Yep, mine was 2002, UFC 40. Back in the days of the Best Damn Sports Show period and early UFC.
I missed that show.
So, yep, that was the first one I really got intrigued by and watched live, and then I went back and binged the first 39 UFCs and have been watching since.
I feel like I'm going to get all this hatred for answering this honestly. Like, yeah, okay, sorry. It was in July of 2009, UFC 100. Like, I'm sorry. Like, string me up, guys. Like, execute me. I'm sorry for the honest answer, but okay.
Hey, everybody starts somewhere, Phil.
I was watching WEC well before that, but whatever. Okay, moving on. Okay, so next question comes from David Grungus. That's at D Grungus. He says, I think Conor McGregor comes back this year and clinches the lightweight title. What are your thoughts? I'll start this off, David. Thank you for the listener question. I believe this is your first time. I do not think Conor McGregor comes back this year, and if he does come back this year, I certainly don't think he's winning the lightweight title. But I could be wrong, and maybe, Fikey, what do you think? Because it does seem like maybe there's a chance now. Who knows? With Khabib's been very silent since obviously the death of his father. Is there a chance that they make this McGregor-Gaethje fight? At the very least for an interim, but maybe for the real belt, and have Khabib come back and fight the winner of that next year.
I don't see that happening. I think Conor's interest is actually fighting at 170. That's just my personal belief, and I think
he's been dead silent about the Masvidal callouts. Interestingly, though. It's almost like he knows what would happen.
Can I say my piece, or?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
The question about Conor and lightweight. Oh yeah. So don't see that happening. But go ahead, Phil.
No. Don't let me stop. You were saying that you believe Conor's interest is in welterweight. So my question, that's very fair take. So what do you think who does Conor want next at welterweight? It does not appear to be Masvidal, that's for sure.
I don't know, Phil. Maybe you know.
No, why don't you just stop being passive-aggressive and tell me who you think?
Well, I'm trying to tell you. You keep interrupting me with what you're...
oh my... Guys, isn't he so dramatic? I just said, tell me what you think.
Okay, again, I think Conor is interested in 170.
Okay.
Can you just control your Masvidal comment for a second while I finish my statement? So, yeah, I would say he wants to fight there. I don't think Gaethje is going to fight Conor next. Again, I listen when people actually say something out of their mouth. Gaethje has been pretty clear that he doesn't want to fight Conor and that he'll wait for Khabib. Now, obviously, the Khabib thing is up in the air. We don't know one way or another if Khabib's going to come back sooner or later. Nobody knows anything, so that's complete speculation by you based on his silence, right?
Whoa, I'm not trying to take a shot at Khabib. I'm going off of what Dana said. We have not talked to Khabib. We're giving him all the time that he needs. We're not bothering him, and we're going to figure it out. When he was asked about UFC 253, which was supposed to be Khabib Gaethje. That's all I'm going off of.
Right, and that's supposed to be this fall, correct?
253 is supposed to be in September. 252's already got a poster.
Right. So, but that's in the fall, correct?
Yeah, it's in September. Okay. Yep, which is coming up very fast.
So it could still happen.
It's mid-July.
Yeah. So again, it could still happen. So I don't see Conor getting an interim title shot. I don't see any of that stuff right now. So to answer the question, no, I don't see Conor clinching the lightweight title this year. Yeah.
I definitely agree there. And then moving on to our voice questions, unless we have... Do we have any other... Oh, you know what? I'm about to screw it up. We do have one more written question. Let me get that. This is from Vic the Dick at Victorious1612. He says, should draws in title fights be more common? It almost never happens, and it seems like we're getting more and more of these extremely close fights every year. Scoring around 10-10 in a title fight should be more common, in my opinion. Round 3 of Holloway versus Volk 2 and Reyes versus Jones are perfect examples of fights where the middle round is simply too close to call. #AsSplitPod. P.S. Those fights were not robberies, and stop pretending like they are just because the guy you wanted to win didn't win. Ooh, Vic coming at me with some fire, insinuating that I wanted Holloway to win, and that's the only reason that I said that Holloway won. I like it.
I don't think that's what he means, but okay.
Oh, no. By the way, I welcome the heat.
No, he's just saying, right? He's just saying you paint the narrative to follow with who you want to win. So
no, that's right. That's what. And so, what is your thoughts on that? Because it sounds like you scored it for Holloway too, right?
Right, but what's the question again?
He asked, should draws in title fights be more common? He was insinuating...
Vic, I can't agree with you there. I think draws suck. Not a fan of draws. I think that...
Especially in title fights.
I think that creates more confusion rather than less confusion. What I would say is we need a more elaborate scoring system that scores knockdowns more heavily than it does currently.
Yep.
I think in boxing, if there's a clear scored knockdown, that's a clear 10-9 or 10-8 round, right, with the knockdown in it. So I'm not against implementing a point for knockdowns to start, weighing that action a little more. So,
no, I completely agree. And one thing that I have noticed is that obviously the unified rules of mixed martial arts were updated a few years ago, and they were intended to encourage judges to give more 10-8 rounds. That has not happened at all.
I feel like we've seen more 10-8 rounds.
Do you? Name the last 10-8 that you thought was a big deal, that was memorable.
What do you mean that was? I'm not saying it was memorable. I'm saying there's more 10-8s than there used to be. Why can't I ever answer the questions here?
Oh, okay. I'm just trying. Okay, I haven't noticed that.
You see a 10-8 almost every fight night. I mean,
you
not
do?
Everyone.
You do? Maybe I'm being dumb here. It's very possible. I haven't seen them.
There was a 30-26 this past weekend, was there not?
Oh, I think there was. No, you're right. I think there was.
So, yeah, I know I am. But I watch the fights, my friend. I mean,
do you guys see what I'm dealing with? Like this condescending smartass. Like, oh my gosh.
Well,
you are feeling sassy tonight, Fight Geek. You are bringing the sass.
You make these statements like, "Oh, they changed the rules and now we never see 10-8s." Well, I basically see a 10-8 almost every fight card. So I'm just saying that what you're saying isn't the absolute ironclad fact.
Everything I say is the absolute ironclad fact.
I just have to make sure that you know it's not.
Okay. All right. Okay, moving on. This is a great question from my boy, Jalen Ware. That's at Strive to Be Great. Always brings the fire. No exception here. Here's his listener question coming up right now.
Hey, what's going on, Split Decision Podcast? This is Jalen. My question is this. Could tomorrow night's main event between Dan Ige and Kelvin be a low-key, very, very important fight in the featherweight division? Could the winner possibly fight for a number one contenders fight, let's say early 2021? with the injuries to Josh Emmett, Frank Edgar possibly not getting another shot, Yair and Chen St. Jong are kind of, they don't consistently fight enough. Could the winner of tomorrow night's fight sneaky get in there and fight for a number one contenders fight and possibly a title fight early, mid 2021? What do you guys think? Thanks, fellas.
Great question, Jalen.
Yeah, that is a great question, and I'll piggyback on what I said earlier. If Kelvin Kattar wins, I do see him being in line for a fight versus someone like a Max Holloway, which would,
I think that's the fight. To be honest, I've kind of fallen in love with that idea.
Yeah. I mean, if Kattar beats Ige and then beats Max Holloway, you can comfortably give him a title shot with a clear conscience. So that would be a great path for him.
I think it's Cater, by the way, but yes.
Yeah, Cater.
Yeah.
Kattar, same difference.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, I agree. I think that if Cater beats Ige, make Cater Holloway. I mean, honestly, Calvin deserves it. I think we all know what would have happened if Cater versus Zabit was a 5-round fight like it was supposed to be. I'll leave it at that. But definitely, that would be the fight to make is Holloway Cater. Let's just keep in mind. Let's try not to forget about Korean Zombie. That's all. I want to make sure Korean Zombie's not forgotten about. I feel bad for him. I think that the COVID situation.
But he does need to fight more than once a year, though.
I understand. There's this little thing called a worldwide pandemic that's devastated the world.
Well, he's also been in the military, and he's not an active fighter throughout his whole career. So to give him a title shot is a little tricky because what if he just never defends it?
I mean, you really think Korean Zombie wouldn't defend his belt?
I'm just saying. I know you know everything. I'm just saying.
Well, thank you for not acknowledging that I know everything.
I'm just saying I don't know, based on his career fighting patterns, that the UFC would be comfortable with him being the title holder.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
Very fair, very fair. Okay, so moving on to what I think is our last question from Smokey J MMA. Guys, give him a follow. He is one of my favorites. He's got great artwork, a great Twitter account, and he's a great Australian. In fact, every time I dissed Volkanovski this week, I felt bad. Specifically, I was like, oh man, I hope Smokey J's not mad. So here's his question.
Hey there, Fight Geek. Phil the MMA dude. From the fucking Split Decision podcast, it is Smokey J here from Australia. How the fuck are ya? Now, I just want to open this question with a little story. We had a fucking electrical storm here last weekend, and a fucking lightning strike sent a power spike into my house, which destroyed my fucking Wi-Fi modem. Well, my modem. So I can't use my Wi-Fi at the moment. So the last UFC event, I had to fucking hotspot off my phone, which almost used all my data. Which was fucking having me a little bit worried, coming into this next fucking midweek event tomorrow. But saying all that, my new modem's getting delivered today, so it's not actually a fucking problem. My question for you guys is, how do you feel about midweek events? Do you like them, or do you think they could be spread out more along other cards? I understand this one being Fight Island, and they're trying to jam-pack it in and all, but what's your overall thoughts on the midweek fight cards? That's all, guys. Thanks. Bye.
Love it.
Yeah, love it. Thanks for the question.
Thank you, Smokey J.
Appreciate all the love and support. I like midweek cards, obviously, especially during this time of the year when, there's nothing on, there's no sports, there's not much to look forward to in the middle of the week. I don't know about you, but I'm just working. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Excited, obviously, for, our podcast. It gives us a little extra work having 3 cards in a 8-day span. But the more fights, the merrier, in my opinion.
All right. Yeah. See, this is where I think, and this might be controversial. I might be stepping in it. This is where I think there's a big difference between married people and non-married people. I think if you're married, they sound great. Wednesday night fight cards sound great. As a eligible bachelor, if I'm being totally honest, I find them a little irritating. Yeah, I'll go ahead and say it. Irritating. I think it's too much. And before everyone crucifies me and says, oh, too much UFC, what the heck? Call yourself the MMA dude. Well, listen, there it's a fact that even as active as the UFC is right now, we still have those occasional weeks without a fight card. So then when there's this sort of double fight cards, there's really 3 in 7 days if we want to be technically speaking 3. Just why can't you just have that card that you wanted to put on the Wednesday and just move it to one of those empty weekends? To me, that's the way better option. So I'm not a fan.
This obviously wasn't scheduled for Wednesday. It just happened to be put together this way because of COVID, correct?
Well, this isn't the first time they've done it this year.
I know, but they don't generally do 3 in 1 week unless they're playing catch up, which they've been doing based on the global pandemic. So this
I
is
hear
not
you,
normal.
But why not? But they had a week break recently, so why not just kind of fill those weeks? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think right now, specifically right now, with travel restrictions and everything being so particular, I think right now it's just too many variables. But in general, I don't know. I mean, I don't remember a lot of Wednesday night cards in the past.
There's not a lot, but they definitely did it recently this year. I remember the episode.
They did it during COVID.
Right.
To catch up. Yeah, so they've done it twice for a global pandemic. It's not like something they generally do. They've done it so that they could get back caught up on their schedule for the year.
Yeah. And by the way, I don't feel strongly. I'm not trying to, attack. How dare the UFC have, 3 fights, 3 title card or 3 cards in a week? I mean, no. I mean, obviously, it's a great problem to have. It's a great complaint for me to have. We're very spoiled. I can't even imagine dealing with COVID, by the way, as a non-MMA fan. That's a topic for another podcast. We could talk an hour about that. But, gun to my head, I would greatly prefer that they just move those cards to a week where there's not going to be any cards and they have it weekly as much as possible. That's just me, though.
Well, I'm happy I have something to watch tomorrow.
Fair enough, you married.
Does that make me sound really old?
It makes you sound married, which is very old. The same thing. Okay, all right. So is that it, Fight Geek?
I believe it is.
All right, Fight Geek, take us away.
All right, guys, as usual, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, Stitcher, and more. I'm at the Fight Geek MMA. He's at Phil the MMA Dude. We're at Split_podcast. It's 4 words, the Split Decision Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and we will talk to you next week. Peace.
Peace.